working together for many more years. I've got at least four cool new things in the pipeline for them in future years because they make really cool plastic stuff, and I like games with really cool plastic stuff. So chances are we're going to make many more really cool games with plastic stuff. Um, and even some cool games without plastic stuff, like Bloodborne. Although the blood is plastic. So everything's got plastic stuff. So after I run through the presentation, talk about a little bit some of the things I have. It's totally open Q&A. Anything you guys want to know that I can answer. A lot of these panels I've used a lot in the past to those of you kind of interested in what goes on, like a little behind the scenes, what goes on in design and development, and what our process is like, what kind of decisions we make, what were we thinking? Why did we make this card? Why do we make that? Why do we make that other card? Why are our minis so awesome? I'm happy to answer any of that that I'm allowed to. The only things I can't really talk about are future projects that we have not announced yet, and I can't. Of course, I can't disclose like financials and crazy stuff like that. And there's some proprietary things that we do in our game, like some of our sculpting stuff is fairly proprietary, and our manufacturing stuff. But as anything that I'm directly involved in is open book. Totally talk about that. So it's an hour and a half with me. That's me playing Cosmic Encounter, by the way, in Toronto, and losing really badly, and somebody caught a really good shot of me as I was about to be I don't know if you guys have played this game or not. It's a multiplayer negotiation game which players can share victory. There were 5 of us. All 4 of them won a shared victory, and I was the only one that did not win. Great game. I love it. All right, so, oh, there we go. See my history with CMON. If I knew my slides better, I would. So that's what I did with CMON. The first game I did with them was Chaos Ball, the sports game of total domination, which this was almost a studio project done by David Preddy, my producer, and myself, where I had just barely heard of Cool Mini or Not when I worked on that game, and I saw that they did Zombicide, and when I saw all the stuff they were able to put in the box, the Chaos Ball was an idea I had many years ago. I'm a big fan of Blood Bowl from Games Workshop, and I love like the idea of sports games with fantasy violence and all that cool stuff. But I couldn't imagine anybody would be able to produce a game with I think I had 25 teams that I wanted to do in the game. Nobody would do that. Everybody laughed me out of the room. They didn't. They said 25 teams, no problem. Let's do it. So we did. We did a Kickstarter. We unlocked like 14 teams, and there's 4 in the base box. Crazy amount of stuff, crazy amount of replay. I think we released a new pack of Ringer players just a little while ago. This game's 3 years old, still going strong. Very happy with it. Arcadia Quest was a game. Who's played Arcadia Quest? All right, Arcadia Quest was a game we all know. We also worked on Inferno. Are you just never putting up your hand? You're never putting up your hand.
Oh, I have that time.
Okay, well, I didn't see it. I figured, you're just like, oh, really? Arcadia Quest is, how many of you guys tried Inferno? Pets? Yeah, Pets. So if you get a chance this weekend, try Inferno, which is season 2 of Arcadia Quest. It's Arcadia, but in hell. And you got to say it that way too. It's got the Underlord, which is our version of the devil in it. He's really cute. Got demons and angels and all that neat stuff. And then we have a standalone set that came out with it called Pets, which is kind of ratchets the cute in Arcadia Quest up even one more level. You get tiny little pets, which we agonized over for months. You can have panda pets and other stuff, but really I just care about the pandas. Really adorable little pets that go around bothering other players and giving yourself boosts until you kill them. It's family game. After Arcadia, I just want to make sure Arcadia Quest was a co-design with the team of Brazilian designers, which are all here. Tiago and Guilherme are here. If you run into them, just say hi. You can even smack on the back of the head and tell them that Eric says hi. Don't do that. Don't do it. But I actually do want to. I want to offer anybody. I will offer anybody a Coolman You're Not exclusive fig from Zombicide if they go up and give Michael Chanel, the designer of Rum and Bones and Dark Age and Wrath of Kings, if they go and give him a hug, I will give you something from Zombicide. I said it on camera. Don't worry, he won't kill you. He'll kill me. I don't have any access to that stuff, unfortunately. I don't even have my own copy of Blood Rage. I keep giving it away at conventions. So, yeah, Michael, we call him Huggy Bear internally. Are you guys? Is this going to go on like the Cool Mini Cast?
We're not sure yet.
Oh, hey, Michael. All right. Okay. Whoopsie. All right. Blood Rage is Blood Rage. Has anybody played Blood Rage here?
I opened it. I haven't played it yet.
Blood Rage is that was kind of a runaway hit on us. I mean, it's a game I worked on for a year and a half. Vikings, Valhalla, lots of death. I don't only make games with lots of death, but there's plastic things and monsters. There's got to be fantasy violence, and it's pretty cool. The game is selling really, really well. We had a good Kickstarter for it. If you guys like area control games with like a lot of strategy, a lot of tactics, but also really good player interaction and combo building and card drafting, you'll definitely like Blood Rage. It combines everything I love in tabletop board games into one package, and it plays pretty fast, 60 to 90 minutes for 4 players. Definitely give it a shot. They're demoing it out here. That's stuff that is out right now. All the rest of the things are not out yet. The others is the biggest single game I've ever made. It is a big box game, let's say same size as Arcadia Quest and Chaos Ball. It is a nightmarish horror game from 2 to 5 players. That I should show you the art. Cool stuff we unlocked. It has a million million expansions for it. All of them completely cross-compatible. I'm looking for art though. Oops. Oh yeah, see those figures there. That's the game. It's crazy. How do I describe it in just a sentence? It's like Call of Cthulhu meets Vampire the Masquerade meets a little bit of like X-Men, and it's got all these really cool pulpy horror tropes in a really sort of dark game. One of my playtesters calls it the classic battle between bad and worse. One player plays one of the 7 sins of the apocalypse, who's trying to ruin the last city on Earth, Haven, while the rest of the world's fallen into corruption. And the rest of the players team up as heroes, like werewolves and demon beasts, and crazy other demons, and people with dude bros with rail guns and all that cool stuff. They're teaming up to save the city as best as they can, without going completely corrupt and either killing each other or ending their own life. One player plays the sin, and the rest of them. It's a 2-sided game, and the rest of them are teaming up against them. It's a really, really hard game, and it's a really scary game. I designed the game to be as horrific as possible. Also 60 to 90 minutes, but it's got the most ridiculous replayability I think of any game I've ever done. Every sin completely changes the style of the game. There's 7 stories that come in the game. Every story is very different, but they're also different depending on which sin you play. There's also different depending on which hero team you play. Each story has a number of different maps that you can play with it. There's acolytes that change the color of that story as well, so they plug in with the monster. There's one of my playtesters call it the Dominion of big box games. So there you go. Just tons and tons of replayability, and direct conflict. Hello. That's the others. That we did a Kickstarter for that. It was a massive Kickstarter. I think it was like 1.4 mil, something like that. It was crazy. But because of that, we unlocked a whole bunch of expansions. I did like a year and a half's worth of expansions because I knew it was Kickstarter just in case. But we unlocked everything, including the Apocalypse box, which has all those really cool minis in it. So that's you can just get the core box and replay tons of stuff, but you can play this game until until the 7 cows come home. Oh, a question already.
Yeah. So, as I understand it, you've got Pride in the box. Do you have the 6 others?
Pride and Sloth are both in the box.
And you're going to roll out the rest?
Yeah, the others, each sin, there's one expansion for every sin, and that plugs into the box, and plugs into the game, and then there's, for actually there's 5 sins, and then there's also alternate teams as well. So there's 7 heroes in the base box, and there's that's Team Alpha, and there's Team Beta, Team Delta, Team Zeta, Team Omega, Team everything. Those, and you don't have to buy them, just more variety, more cool stuff, and every hero on every team is very, very different, and all the teams work together in different ways too, which is pretty cool. Actually, we even have the Sons of Ragnarok in here. There it is, which is a Viking-inspired team, Viking biker team, which actually they're all named after the Blood Rage gods, and the powers that they have are kind of Blood Ragey as well. So we got a little crossover in there as well. With an art book by Adrian Smith, which is anybody who doesn't know Adrian Smith, he's one of my favorite one of my favorite artists out there. He did all the art for Blood Rage, and he did all of the monster art for the others. Karl Kopinski and a bunch of other amazing artists did the heroes. So that's the others. 2 games coming up that we've been showing off here at the expo. We've been showing off Bloodborne. Bloodborne, the card game, which is licensed off of Bloodborne. Oh, there goes my producer. He ran away. It is based off of the PS4 game, and it is a 30 to 45 minutes quick card game. It's absolutely brutal. Who's played Bloodborne, by the way? Very few of us. All right, try it. If you like games that are really hard, you'll.
Best video games ever.
It's really. Has anybody heard of Demon Souls, Dark Souls? Bloodborne is in that series. It's just a more gothic Van Helsing-ish type of thing. That's not exactly fair, but it's
pretty cool.
It's really, really cool. If you like a gothic art style, that's and the game is I would say it's even harder than Dark Souls. When I first played it, I played it for like 35 minutes. I'm like, that's way too hard. I went back and didn't finish it because it's way too hard. But the card game distills the Chalice Dungeon Run, which is for those of you who don't know Bloodborne, this is it's a dungeon crawl game that's just unbelievably punishing and hard. But you play against other players, killing monsters, taking their blood. One quick second. I think I actually have this in. All right, I have this in the panel. I'll talk more about that later. So Bloodborne and The Godfather, the board game. That's the big box game that we're coming out with. Hopefully, early next year. We hope. The game is done. We just have to we got a lot of production stuff to do, and we want to line it up with the 50th anniversary. 50th? 50th. No, 40th anniversary of 40th anniversary of The Godfather. If you guys haven't seen the movie, please watch it. It's amazing. It's one of my favorites. All right. So just before we go on, I was going to, just before we move on to the other things, anybody have any questions about the non-new stuff, like up until the others, up until Bloodborne, Godfather? Anybody have any questions about the old stuff that I talked about? Oh, here we go.
Obviously, I've talked to you in the past about this. I'd love to see some more stuff for Chaos Ball, or possibly even some new fields or field effects, things like that would add new aspects to the game. I know you just put out new ringers. Is there any talk of an expansion or even a couple new teams or anything?
So we have league rules. I have to find them. I got to talk to somebody about them. Like we do have league rules that were. I actually designed them with the core box, but they're custom league rules for Chaos Ball. They should be up there, free downloadable content. If you should try them. Like I think they're really really cool. It's a customized league rule set specifically to work with Chaos Ball. Which is why all the magnets that come in the box, that it justifies all the cool magnets we have. Have you played that yet?
Which
The league rules?
I
for
have
it?
not tried the league
Okay.
rules yet. I was trying to get a league going at my local shop, but
Okay.
it just
The
hard to
league
get.
rules were designed specifically so that you could play like a night of Chaos Ball in like 4 or 5 hours, and you'd be able to play a full
Nice.
league. Yeah, I really really like those. Where I don't know. Well, I will talk to some of I'll talk to some of the guys. I know it is online. It's with all this new stuff. It's tough for me to keep up with everything that's out there. For expansions, I mean, I always have ideas for expansions for our existing games, but I've actually now gotten to the point where I have this much bandwidth, and we get to a point where it's like, do we want a new game or do we want an expansion for an existing game? And the answer is always a new game. And then The Godfather landed in my lap when they said we had the license for The Godfather. I was like, I'm doing that game because that's one of my favorite movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened 2 more times for things like, I know, Jared, I can't talk about it. Cool new stuff I can't talk about that is stopping me from doing other stuff. The Arcadia Quest has 3 other designers as well, so the fact that there's 4 of us, that's why we can keep pumping out Arcadia stuff. We're allowed to talk about all the Arcadia stuff, right? Everything that was unlocked the Kickstarter, the pets and dragons. That was only because there's 4 of us working on it.
Yeah.
Chaos Ball, I'm the guys, and I don't want anybody else designing Chaos Ball, so that's be patient. When I get a chance, I absolutely will.
Okay.
Yes.
That was actually going to be part of my question is, because you are so prolific right now, you have so much going on, and I mean, you're eating a lot of plates. Are you starting to bring anybody in, try and show them kind of your process and make them your apprentice? Are you trying to teach anybody how to craft games?
Are you applying for a job?
Okay. I'm not suited for this, but I enjoy watching what you're doing. So, at what point do you say, I can't do all of it, and I've got to show someone else how to do it because there's demand and an audience for it?
Well, generally, I've just gotten better at saying no. So I just don't do. I actually do fewer games now than I used to, and I take longer on every game than I used to. So, but this is my full-time job, right? This is all I do. That's all I've been doing for a long, long time. So I've actually just made other processes that I do more efficient. So our playtesting, my wife runs my playtesting now, which is she does a really good job of it. So that's become a lot more efficient, more professional. So I'm able, because of that, in the last 2 years, I've actually been able to make more games at a higher level, at a higher level of quality, but I'm not actually outputting more stuff. So just outputting that stuff. So I do co-designs. I do several co-designs with, those are mostly games I do in Europe for the French market or stuff like that with some French friends of mine. Those are lighter games generally, and I do like 1 or 2 of those a year. But for this is what I do, right? And a lot of the games I do are kind of very stylistic and they're very clearly mine. And it's something that I'm not sure if I could teach somebody else. I don't know if I'd want to teach anybody else how to design exactly like me. Like every designer has their own voice. So I wouldn't want to tell somebody, be exactly like me. Like they should make their own games, and I'm sure they would make different choices than I would. I'm going to do about 2 or 3 of these big box games a year, and that's about all I can handle. And I probably won't do any more than that. That's the pace I'm just going to keep. It just happens that I'm doing most of them with Cool Mini or Not, because they make the really coolest toys. I've hit my saturation point now. If that's what you're asking. Like I'm not going to be making games faster than before. doing, I guess, bigger games, more of making games more of an event, and also like if I'm working on a game, it doesn't matter what game it is. If it's not good enough, I'll just throw it away. And that's one of the cool minis. Really, they're like Jared's getting nervous. Like, uh-oh. Like, I mean, they're really good about that. If the game's not good enough, we just say it's not coming out. I'm actually working on a game right now, which we're not allowed to talk about, except David Preddy said in another panel it's the same. Hmm? I can't talk about it, but David Preddy in the other panel said that it's the same team, the same artists, the same sculptors as the team that did Blood Rage. The band's getting back together. We're making another game. I've been working on it for like a year already, but it's not ready, so it's not going to come out for a while. The other thing I've been doing is I've been taking a lot more of a break. So I don't necessarily, when I say I work on a game for a year, it's usually I work on it intensely for a couple months, then put it away for a few more months, and then work on something else and just let it stew for a while and reflect on it. That's improved the quality of my games quite a bit as well, because I can come back to it essentially as a stranger playing somebody else's game and just being a lot more brutal with it. All right, so I'll go back to questions for a sec, but I will go to first. Bloodborne. I love that tagline. Kill monsters and take their blood. So we are doing demos of it in the hall. I strongly encourage you to try it. I mean, I've been working on this one also for a long time, since I guess last year, right? Jared saw the first version of it, I think at Gen Con, maybe, something like that, last year. So it's a quick run through a dungeon full of like horrible, awful monsters that are attacking all players at the table, and you guys are you start off with a number of small wimpy weapons and will be during the game. You'll be picking up better weapons, better upgrades, and the core mechanic of the game is everybody's simultaneously going to be choosing how they're going to attack the monster, but one player is going to be the lead hunter every turn. And so once everybody's played and revealed their cards, you're going to make your attacks in order from the lead hunter on clockwise. So if you're last in the order, you may not get any blood left on the monster if it dies. So you might actually, one of the other choices you can make instead of doing an attack is you can play the Hunter's Dream, which is withdraw from combat and run back and bank all the blood that you had already collected. Because if you die, every monster attacks the entire group, and you die a lot in Bloodborne. It says that right there. If you die, you lose all the blood you collected up until that point. And unlike the video game, you can't go back and get it back. It's a 45-minute game. I've called it jokingly in my playtest group, I actually call it a death management game. Like, you're going to die. You know you're going to die X number of times. How far are you willing to push yourself? And is it okay for you to die? How many times do you think you can die before you can get the most blood? I'm really proud of the game. I think it's really cool. It's really, really, really brutal. I played several games where the game lasts about 14 rounds or so. I played several games where on the very first monster, on the very first part of the deck, everybody's killed. It just happens. And when that happens, I just say, welcome to Bloodborne. Here's some concept art from the game. This is all concept art from the video game. We can't show any graphics yet; they're not quite approved. So when you do take demos, they'll have to say no pictures, no social media or anything like that. But you can have a look at the prototype in process. The game is coming out. Hopefully, he looks at the people in the back. Hopefully, head shake.
This year.
Hopefully this year. As soon as possible. We have, as well as game design and development tweaks, we also have to do approvals with Sony, of course. So it's ready when it's ready, but it'll be really cool when it comes out. There's some components in. Let's see, plastic blood, life dials, and trophies. Oops. That's Bloodborne. That'll be, it's in a small box, probably $40-ish, I'm guessing. that don't quote me on that, but that's about the price point, maybe a little bit more worth it. Godfather. The Godfather is that's the next big box board game I'm working on. This one is not going through Kickstarter, going straight through retail. It's a box of probably about the size of Blood Rage, maybe not quite as big, but it's got lots of cool plastic figures in it. Is there art? There's art. The complete jobs thing. Don't worry about that. That's my silly graphic design. But the art there that you see on the side there, that's all the art is done by Karl Kapinski, who's one of the best artists in the industry. One of the other reasons I make a lot of games for Cool Mini or Not is they work with amazing artists, and these are guys that I grew up on. I love this stuff, and he's doing all the art for the game. You'd never when I saw the art for it and I saw some of the minis, I was like, I couldn't believe that a game about essentially like big Italian guys in suspenders like look really badass and cool. Well, I'll see if there's more art in here. Anyway, so I'll move back here. So the game, we're going to be demoing it a couple of times, at least a couple more times today and probably a couple more times tomorrow. It's a big box game like Blood Rage. It's 60 to 90 minutes, 2 to 5 players. It scales well. I made sure that it plays well 2, 3, 4, or 5 players. Sorry, one moment. The game is I call it a thug placement game. If you guys are familiar with worker placement games at all, like that, it starts off as a worker placement game, but it's also got turf war, which is a little bit of area control. It's got mafia style player interactions. You order hits, order drive-by shootings, car bombs. There's intrigue and stuff. There's tons and tons of over-the-table interaction. It's very mean to your opponents, but the stakes are not that high. I mean, there's thugs, right? Your thugs will die and they'll go face down in the river, but you'll get new thugs. You can always get new thugs. Sorry, just one moment. I apologize. I also have a cold that I picked up at watching Captain America last night. So I blame Marvel. That's right. I blame you, Marvel. So this game, I'm super proud of this game. This is exactly the type of game that you expect from me. I think it's really, really clean, really tight, very smooth. Ultimately, the game you are playing through the storyline of Godfather 1, which is my personal favorite of the 3 movies. You play through Don Corleone's life, and right now we're using Chaos Ball miniatures as stand-ins for that. So I'm using the panda from Chaos Ball as Don Corleone. It amuses me. And you guys are playing the other mob bosses of the other 5 families. And as a mafia boss, the only thing that matters is money. So at the end of Act 4, for those of you who haven't watched the movie, it's been 40 years. So spoiler alert, like Marlon Brando dies at the end. When he dies, when he dies, whoever's got the most money is the new mob boss, is the new most powerful of the 5 families. Now, the key dilemma for this game is that you're going to have a hand of cards. I mean, you got a cool board with thugs. There's tons of minis in this as well. You're going to put thugs on the board to shake down businesses to get illegal resources and in order to complete jobs. Jobs are going to give you more money and let you do really cool things like extortion against your other players. But the money in your hand is actually useless. It doesn't do anything for you. It's a hard life being a mafia boss. You actually have to launder the money, make it clean, and put it into your suitcase, and only that money counts at the end of the game. So, and of course, at the end of every round, you're going to use that money also to bid for more powerful, we call it people, characters from the movie that all have their own special powers, like the union boss and the mayor and a bunch of the cool named characters in the movie. And also at the end of every act, there's 4 acts in the game, the Don himself, Don Corleone himself, will demand a tribute, and everybody will have to discard their hand down to a maximum hand size. So if you've been sitting there just collecting a bunch of stuff and not funneling it properly in your suitcase, you're going to end up discarding a whole bunch of cards. So it is kind of sort of an economic game with murder and intrigue. It what I wanted to do this game, I really, really wanted to make a game that puts you in the head of a mafia boss. Like what thugs, resources, they die. That as long as they made you lots of money before they died, you'll end up having you'll end up having a consigliere or lawyer, and you'll have an heir after to join you. Even if your don gets shot, you get another don. As long as you make the most money, that's what matters. 60 to 90 minutes, very highly tactical. And of course, there's turf war on the board as well. Ah, there you go. Oh, sweet. That's a picture of what the board is going to look like. That's the art for the board, also done by Karl Kopinski. Look at those badass thugs. That's Corleone on the side. This is the lady. There's one of the consiglieres who even herself, she's got a little gun. David's here. That's a painting, right?
Huh?
The under the on the bottom there, that's a painting, right?
Yes, it's Richard Wright.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Amazing art. And again, one of the reasons I'm really happy to make lots of games with him. Oh, and apparently that's the end of the slide. Oh, Guillermo, my favorite. Bye-bye. That's the end of just me talking. That was an overview of all the games I'm working on right now, but the focus of this is to answer your questions. Anything you guys want to know, please ask away, and we'll start. Anybody have any burning questions? Oh, we already have one.
I was just actually curious about kind of the thought process that you had when you were designing Bloodborne. Because there are so many directions you could have taken the game. It could be a very miniatures heavy game with like dungeon exploration, and I'm just curious kind of like the thought process of how you landed where you did, because it sounds really cool. It's not what I would have expected.
Right.
When I first heard like card game, that's interesting. That's not, especially from a company like Cool Mini or not.
Right.
So I just love hearing kind of the thought process of how you kind of get.
Sure, absolutely. So the one of the I'm going to speak only, of course, from my point of view, right? So one of the really exciting things about Bloodborne, from my point of view, is that it's one of those super niche games, right? Like it's a niche game that has a really huge fan base and really dedicated fan base, and the crossover between people who play Bloodborne and people who play board games or could potentially want to play board games is much higher than, say, some of the more mainstream games like Halo or Call of Duty or stuff like that. So, to my mind, the thing that really attracted me to this game was that I felt like we had a real good shot at doing a crossover game, like a game that could show up in GameStop or something like that. That people would. Now, I know we're all gamers and we all love our big box board games, but I promise you, there's a lot of people who don't play in our hobby who would look at a box like Blood Rage and go, "Whoa, I'm not playing this. This is too big." I wanted a game that could really be a gateway for those players. But of course, I mean, I'm a gamer. I design for people who like my kind of games. The challenge for me was I wanted to make sure it had enough meat and enough rich decision making to do that as well. So almost everything that you see in the game, the mechanics wise, is based on. I wasn't necessarily looking to make stuff that was just. I didn't want to make something that was dumb, right? I wanted to make something that was that was smart and tough, but I want to make sure to eliminate as much downtime as possible, which is why the simultaneous action selection all the time. Bloodborne itself, for those of you guys who haven't played, the scope of that game is amazing. It's not quite a sandbox game, but it's close enough. You can do almost anything you want in that game. I don't even know how to classify it, like what kind of game it is. So I wanted to choose the Chalice Dungeon run, which is essentially the dungeon crawl aspect of the game. That's the most easily grokkable, bite-sized experience in Bloodborne that would translate easily into another game, right? I could go to anybody and go, this is Bloodborne, the card game. You kill monsters, take their blood, and you die a lot. And then as they play, the people get that, right? That's a pretty universal, easy concept to understand. But by playing the game, and by going and dying in the first turn, or by seeing the the different effects that the different bosses have, they learn a little bit about Bloodborne. So it's a two-way thing, right? So it's not. I didn't only want to make the game for Bloodborne players to come into board games. I actually wanted to make a game that would take board gamers and teach them a little bit about Bloodborne. So that Venn diagram is pretty tough to design for. I mean, of course, I thought of, like, oh, what would a big sprawling board game look like? But every draft I did of that, the scope creep was ridiculous. Like, there's every time I made a decision to try to cut down the scope, there was always there's an equal number of fans of Bloodborne that was like, well, why didn't you do this instead? Why didn't you do this? What? So I wanted. I just wanted to pack as much as I could. Now, at Cool Mini, there are some pretty expert Bloodborne players, like way better versed in the game than I am. One of them is here in the room, but I won't out him, Jared. I actually used Jared. I think it's fair to say I used Jared as one of my guideposts. So when I put together the card game, I thought when I put together what I had, I was like, I think this captures most of the tropes that we can look forward to. I actually went to Jared and was like, did we get everything? Like, is there something that not necessarily experts, that people who have played the game more than 10 hours, is there stuff that they're going to miss, as long as they're understanding that it's a card game? And I think I don't know if you've played it or not. Have you played the card game yet?
No.
Oh, okay. Please play it and tell me if you agree. But I think we got a lot into it. Now, confession time, I couldn't even finish Bloodborne. I played it. Like, I played Dark Souls, I played Demon Souls. Bloodborne kicked my ass. Like, that game was brutally hard. I love it, I just couldn't finish it. Like, I don't have the bandwidth. I can't finish... I can't, like, I love games like Civilization and stuff like that, Masters of Orion. I can't finish those games anymore. I don't have the bandwidth for it. So... one of the things I really prize is not necessarily being a like 20th level expert in the game, because I don't want to necessarily design by experts for experts. I want to design for people, for everybody, for all ability levels. And then, of course, my experts will tell me when I screwed up. Did I screw up? No. All right. Yay. Absolutely. Any other? Oh, we got one up here. I'll get you right afterward.
How hard is it working with games that have like these type of IPs? Like Sony looking over your shoulder, saying, for example, you can't make that character this way or that way.
So from my point of view, I'm actually pretty protected from the approvals process. I'm the designer, so I designed the game. I put together the pitch, and I'm always talking with with Cool Mini, with the guys, and especially with a game like this where I don't know much about how the approvals are going to go. I will pitch early and often, and they're pretty receptive about. I wrote a brief, I think, for the game, which is just my attempt at a rule book. I don't write good rule books, by the way. I write okay rule books. They get polished up quite a bit by the publisher. I would write a rule book, and then they sent it off for approvals, just to make sure that we're going in the right direction. Once I got that, then I just built off of what I had. I mean, how hard is it? I mean, all games are hard. Like, every game is hard. Designing games never gets easier. The bar always keeps going up. I always feel, especially when I have a really successful game, like when Blood Rage hit, I threw away every other game I was working on at the same time, because I looked at those games like, well, this isn't Blood Rage, this isn't as good. Toss, off it goes. The others did the same thing, right? After the others, I'm like, well, I guess I'm done with the dungeon crawl type of game, like with the big one versus many epic game. There it goes, because I'm not going to make anything better than that. The only way I could go into infinite detail, but it's hard and will always be hard. At the end of the day, I want to make a game that resonates, especially for IP. I want to make a game that resonates with the people who play the game at all levels, expert to casual, that, but gives them also a new experience in that space, right? So, for example, Bloodborne. I'll use Bloodborne as another example. I definitely didn't want to make a game that just simulates the computer game, right? Because the computer game does that infinitely better. I'm not going to do a big sandboxy experience that you can save, because the console game does that infinitely better. Oh, narrow. So I want to make a game. So, but a card game, like a multiplayer card game that really takes advantage of the psychology of a group of players. That's something you couldn't get on the console. So even people who played Bloodborne like for 80 hours and they just want a new experience in that space, they can play that. They can play the card game, and it can go on the same shelf as the console game, and there will be no redundancy. That's generally my aim. And like with Godfather, I mean, I'm not going to make a game that just follows the movie, even though the game follows the movie. But I'm not going to make a game that like tries to plot out like beat per beat the storyline in the movie. I want to give you guys an experience. Well, what's it like to be the other 5 mob bosses while Corleone is doing his thing? So that's generally my aim.
I'm a big fan of a game you did several years back, Chaos in the Old World.
I've heard of that. I've heard of that.
You've heard of it. When I played Blood Rage, I thought this game is kind of the spiritual successor to that. It's kind of the placement and the resources to place things.
Mhm.
Do you see that at all? Maybe like that's like Chaos in the Old World 2.0 or some of the earlier design cues you took from Chaos, you put that into Blood Rage? Talk
Well,
about that at all?
so I mean, yes and no, right? So the Blood Rage is it's actually a spiritual successor to a game I did in 2005 called Midgard, which was also a Viking game that had drafting in it, but it had no mechanics in common. It was just Vikings with drafting. I love Vikings. It's one of my favorite themes ever. It may not even be the last Viking game I do. I just love Vikings. But the Midgard was a very Euro, like a very quick, simple Euro game. But I put a sort of I ordered I don't know how else to say it, but sort of Fantasy Flight-ish cover on it, which promised a really big, immersive, thematic experience. Midgard wasn't that. It was a Euro game, it's a Euro area control game. So for years, that bothered me. It really, really bothered me. So I wanted to make the game that cover promised. And then when David isn't here, when I ran into David Preddy, who's my producer on this and one of the top dogs at CMON, we actually, I met him in Singapore. I was working on something else, and we were just riffing on other games, and he saw Midgard, and I saw the cover. He's like, "Oh, dude, I could do way better than that. I'll give you, like, you wanted to work with Adrian Smith?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And boom, there was Blood Rage. So the Rage being a descendant of the Power and Chaos in the Old World, that was one of those, like, I mean, of course, you know, all designers borrows. Sometimes I'm like, I'll borrow from myself. Why not? I'm a big believer in I want the game to be greater than the sum of its parts, right? I'm not necessarily interested in making like a whole bunch of different clever mechanics that don't necessarily mesh. I care about if a game is smooth, immersive, and unobtrusive as possible. So if I've got something that already really works, as long as it's not the central bullet point, the marketing bullet point of the game, then I'll use what works. And the Rage was like, I mean, I knew right off very early that I wanted Rage to be the thing that fuels you, because it's Vikings, right? And how the way that it works, yeah, I was like, well, it's worked in Chaos, and it will work here too, but the context of Blood Rage will make for a very different game experience, even though it has that mechanic in common. So, I mean, there's a part of Blood Rage, I'm not sure how obvious it is, but the combat is a little bit inspired by Chaos Ball. Chaos Ball has a simultaneous selection mechanic, but again, it works completely different it feels different in Chaos Ball than it does in Blood Rage, because Blood Rage is all about drafting a number of different cards that has to be everything to you, and because they coalesce together in combat phase, you have to decide whether you're going to play a battle card or a non-battle card, and remember that if you win, you're going to lose it. That context makes it a completely different experience. So that was a long way of saying yes. I definitely there's ancestry in other games I've done, and I will be. I'm sure I'm going to be reusing mechanics from time to time, but I generally try not to make the same game twice. As long as if a mechanic feels very different somewhere else, I'll definitely use it. Question.
When you're working on a non-licensed IP, do you like start with the idea of what you want to do and fit the mechanics to it, or do you have like the mechanics in your head and think, oh, this would be the greatest thing to fit this mechanic?
I have. I don't think I've ever. I'm trying to remember. In the last 7 or 8 years, I don't think I've ever gone. This mechanic is so good, I'm going to make a game out of it. I appreciate clever mechanics. I appreciate. Yeah, I guess that's all I can say. I appreciate them, but I'm never, like. I'm not inspired by them. Right. At the end of the day, what I'm looking for. I guess you could call it the theme, but at the end of what I'm looking for is the soul of a game, right? And that could be fairly abstract. I've done a couple of games that are not necessarily a story, but it has the soul of the game is usually based off of a particular player interaction, or an argument I want to see at the table or something like that. And usually I will, I don't do this all the time, but early on in a game I'll sit down, I'll kind of visualize watching people play the game at a convention. I don't know how it plays. I have no idea, but I'll visualize what they're playing. What are they talking about? What kind of arguments are they having? Why are they having fun? What are they sort of generally are they doing during their turns? And then kind of play that in my head. Like nowadays, since Will Wheaton did his tabletop show, that's become a lot easier to visualize because they dramatize it so well. I'm kind of looking for that perfect experience, and at that point, I'll just map out mechanics to get to that point. And then at some point during that process, then mechanics will take over, right? There will be a point where like, all right, well, this is actually too clunky, or it doesn't, or there's too much going on, or there's too much cognitive load, or any of that stuff. There aren't enough paths to victory, all that technical stuff. That will take over, and then I'll usually put it away for a while, and then because sometimes you can easily over-engineer a game to be very checklisty and perfect, but then you kind of suck all the soul out of it. So then I put it away for a while, come back to it, and then usually I'll come back to it from the theme or the soul again, and I just go back and forth like that. And at some point, I have to finish it. So I almost never start with mechanics, but I often finish with them, even though. Even though I never let the mechanics completely dominate, if that makes sense. Another question? You got one more question?
One more.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
And so, we're allowed to ask questions of other games that you worked on that are not Coleman You're Not related, or just Coleman You're Not?
Yes. I'm just looking at Jared. Yeah, go for it.
So how involved are you with, I guess, all the Dice Master expansions that are coming out every 2 to 3 months? I mean, it seems like a lot.
It's a lot. Mike Elliott and I design 100% of Dice Masters. It's one of my day jobs. I'm working on it a lot. We're a year and ahead. We're at least a year ahead of what's on. I don't even know what's out now. What's the latest set?
Civil War next week.
Yes. All right, I remember that set.
Yours is very soon.
So we finished Civil War like a year ago, I think. Yeah, I think a year ago. So I don't know. I'm on set 19 now. I think it is. DC set number 9, not 19 DC set, but
Okay.
set number 19.
Okay.
It happens to be DC set. It won't be coming out until maybe late 2018. We work on several sets at a time, and usually because we get really, really inspired, especially after watching like a really, really cool movie. But with the Dice Masters, we get our marching orders from Marvel because they know way ahead of time. They've got their movie schedule planned out till 2020, 25, something crazy like that. So they know what's coming out. So they just tell us, this is the next set you're doing, because we know what movie's coming out, but you don't get to see the movie. So you got to it's based on the comics. So when Civil War comes out, it's going to be based on the comics. And now that I've seen the movie, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, we got everything we wanted. The two match Age of Ultron. You probably remember the Age of Ultron movie was not really that much like the comic. So the set, any inconsistencies you find between the set and the movie, it's because it was based on the comic.
Are you happy with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle box set, the Dice Master box set, playing it on its own? Are you happy with what came
I
out of
think
it?
so. I think so. I think that we only so Mike and I both work differently, right? I generally only play test stuff on its own, and his groups play it with other sets. We played it, so I actually played that set with mostly younger players, because 13 to 15-year-old players, and they loved it. I'll admit I was never the biggest Ninja Turtles fan. I don't dislike it. I think it's fine. I watched the cartoon in the '80s. I thought that was Ninja Turtles. So I relied on Mike a lot to make sure we got the essence of it. I based a lot of it of what I knew on the '80s show, but my metric for that is that were the Ninja Turtles fans of that generation really happy with it, and they were. Any question back there?
So, not about any of your games, but when you do finally have time to play other people's games, do you have any favorites? I know you mentioned Cosmic Encounter, or even just like designers you're really engaged by their stuff. Your stuff is so cerebral and thinky, but quickly clockable, and I wonder what do you get out of these games?
Oh, I'm a fan first, right? So I've been a gamer since, I've been a full-on gamer since '88 when I played D&D for the first time. So I've been playing games forever. I love Cosmic Encounter. It's one of my favorite games. Lately I've been obsessed with Hearthstone. Don't tell anybody. I play the spectrum. So poker has always been one of my favorite games. It's like poker informs is so deep in my DNA that style of strategic poker, like tournament poker, the way that informs a lot of what I do. I love. Richard Garfield's one of my biggest influences. I've played Magic the Gathering since it came out. Sid Saxon, if you guys, I don't know if you guys know him, one of the most underrated designers of all time, even though he's he designed Can't Stop, I'm the Boss, Bazaar, Metropolis. He was on a lot of games in the '60s to the '80s. He was so far ahead of his time. If you look at a lot of his old games, they are basically what Euro games are today, but even more distilled and disciplined and focused on player interaction, a little bit less than sort of OCD mechanic, engine building stuff. He's a huge influence on me. I love Can't Stop, for example. It's one of my, I'm the Boss by Sid Saxon is one of my favorite games of all time. I highly recommend it. You don't play it. I actually play a lot of Cool Mini Not stuff. I'm not sucking up. If Jared made a game, I wouldn't play it. Gotta throw a back end in there. I like. So I was I love Zombicide Black Plague, the latest one that came out. I really like. It's really cool. I like Rum and Bones. I was really into Sedition Wars. Maybe not as much the game, but I love the universe, the IP very much. Let's see. I also play. Classic stuff. Stratego is a huge influence on me. The Stratego, Reiner Knizia's Lord of the Rings Confrontation. Somebody put a Batman on my computer. Oh, that's Giles. Jeez. Never mind. It's somebody else's computer. I was answering your question. I noticed there's a Batman sticker on my computer. It's like, no, that's not mine. So I like playing games that cater to my short attention span. I love. I'm a huge fan of massively multiplayer online games. I don't really have like with Bloodborne, I don't have the bandwidth to really play them anymore. But I mean, I was into Meridian 59, Ultima Online, EverQuest. I played Dark Age of Camelot, World of Warcraft. I played for years, on and off. I quit World of Warcraft 5 times, not because I didn't like the game, but for the other reason. Um, I'm a pretty big Blizzard fanboy. I love Warcraft. I'm going to play Overwatch when it comes out. I know I am. I say I'm not going to, but I'm going. I'm going to. Blizzard is another. They're a huge influence on me. Not as much maybe through gameplay, but I love their sense of humor, and like they do serious games with a little side of humor, like sort of undercutting humor that I really like, and they also I love their attitude. Their attitude is it's done when it's done, and they'll throw away a game that they worked on for years if it doesn't cut the mustard. And it's not a game, but Pixar, Pixar Animation Studio is also a huge influence. I studied the hell out of those guys. If you guys, Andrew Lasseter wrote he's one of the main guys at Pixar. He wrote a biography. I'm not sure if it's in book form, but you should read it. His work ethic's amazing to me. Like, he's a really creative guy, really hard on himself. The story of Finding Nemo actually inspired something I did a few years ago, a couple of years ago, where Finding Nemo, we've all heard of Finding Nemo, right? A great movie in my opinion, good for all ages. They had an entire cut of that movie, everything done, animated, cut, directed, voiceovered, threw it away, whole thing. They did a few screenings. They're like, it's not good enough. They threw it away and rewrote it from scratch. And that's the movie you're watching right now. That blew my mind. Like, it's those movies, to do an animated movie like that is ungodly expensive, and it's morale crushing for the team to throw that away. But at the end of the day, like, they didn't run any metrics. They didn't do any like focus groups or anything. They just watched it in a room and said it wasn't good enough. That sort of inspired me a couple of years ago to go through. Is it time to go? Okay, to go through. I had on my computer at any given time. Not this one. Can't steal it. But on any. On my older computers at any given time, I would have like 100, 150 game ideas that are like either mostly finished or ready to make prototypes out of, but never really finished it. At one point I just said, you know what? I'm never going to make a game out of these. I'm just going to throw them away. So I deleted them all, took them off my Dropbox, took them off the cloud. They don't exist anymore. I ripped up the prototypes, didn't look at it. And that was really freeing. That was around the time, right after Blood Rage. So every game that's coming out between then and now is all based on like just none of my old tricks, just brand new, fresh ideas. And that's a big part of why I was able to make so many games in a short amount of time. I was just crazy inspired again. I actually made did I bring it? I did. I designed a game on the plane on the way down here, which I've been playing around for. Did you play that? You played it?
I did.
Yeah, it's broken, unfortunately. I broke it last night when I was thinking about it. But
Damn it, man.
but don't worry, it'll be fine. So that, yeah, it's. I don't even remember your original question. I'm sorry.
What are your favorite games?
Oh, those. Yes.
Is there a theme or a genre that you'd like to explore in a game that you haven't had a chance to?
You know, I'm sure the answer is yes. I mean, I've been so blessed in that I worked on licensed games I did a run for about 5 years. I did nothing but licensed games. And pretty much every license I've ever wanted to do, I got to do. I got to work on Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and StarCraft and World of Warcraft and I worked Marvel, DC. So like all the stuff I grew up on, absolutely. I still work on Final Fantasy. So if any of you guys have a link to, any guys align on Final Fantasy license, I'll do that. No question. I kind of grew in my 20s. I grew up on a lot of like hard science fiction, like Larry Niven, Jerry Pournelle, Ian Banks, that kind of stuff. I'd kind of like to do a hard science fiction game that's a little bit more, maybe not so much based on the sort of the Star Trek side of it, not the technobabble side of it, but more the sort of human condition side of it. I think it would be pretty cool. I'm not working on anything like that right now, mostly. The so well, it's public now. I've always wanted to do a game that's just pure humor, and I've got that. So I'm working on that Munchkin trading card game with Kevin Wilson. It's nothing to do with the card game. It's just the same IP. It's a technically sound competitive trading card game